Today, what I'm going to be reviewing is a little taste of the AI Builder, which is an extension of really Dynamics 365 and the Power Platform. So I'm just sharing kind of a quick deck, an overview of what that tool set includes, why I love it so much, how we can use it, and then I'm going to dive into just a super short demo. They're really expanding this entire product suite. So it's cool to see how it's evolved and like how it continues to evolve. All right, so again, yeah, we're going through the tool set. I always like to review pricing and licensing just because I'm a little bit nerdy and I like to know how much stuff costs and what I'm paying for, right? And then we'll dive into a demo. So what is AI Builder? For anyone who's not familiar, again, it's an extension of the Power App, Power Automate Dynamics 365 offering. So it's a suite of no code, really like low code tools that we can leverage to use artificial intelligence. It pretty much means that anybody can use this. I promise you, if I can use this and I'm not a developer, absolutely anyone who watches this recording can for sure do it. And some of these features are complete game changers for organizations. So a lot of times when people think of artificial intelligence, one, they think of like, you have to be a developer, you have to be a data scientist. Well, that's totally untrue. This is giving us like harnessing the power of artificial intelligence in a fun way that's super user friendly. And there's really no coding in setting up these training models, whether they're custom or pre-built. And what it's going to do is it's going to help your company, your business, your practices, your customers, if you're a consultant like me, really standardize and make certain processes really efficient. And when I kind of go through the tool set, I'll give some different examples of how customers that I've worked with are using that, and really how I envision some of these tools could be used. So again, it's user-centric. You don't need to be a developer. You don't need to be a data scientist to build these models and leverage them, which is the coolest part of it all. So what is part of this tool set? All right, there is really like pre-built models that we can use, and I'll highlight some of those in my demo. But really what they're all built on are within these categories here. So we've got form processing, category classification, object detection, prediction, and entity extraction. Form processing, which is what I'm going to demo in just a bit here, is probably one of my favorite ones to use, mainly because I think it's the most applicable to any industry and any client could really benefit from this. So where I see a use case for this is like people that get sent invoices, or people that, I'm working with like a healthcare company right now, and they have tons and tons and tons of authorizations that get faxed to them. Well, we're able to use form processing to read and extract certain data points from these forms and manually get them into the system that we're using. So in my case, the world I live in outside of Power Platform is Dynamics 365 customer engagement, so like a CRM tool. We're able to extract data when it comes in through email, through fax, or if we scan it in ourselves, extract those data points and put them in our Dynamics environment so that we can begin to analyze and do something else off of that data. So it eliminates manual data entry, it reduces error, and basically it frees up your team if they are doing manual data entry on a fairly often basis. It frees them up to do actual more important work. So that's a super huge win for form processing. We've got category classification. So this is a way to categorize data. The biggest kind of like push for category classification kind of ties to sentiment analysis. So maybe you are part of a customer service team and you often chat with people in real time to solve their problems, or you talk to them on the phone, right? And there's a transcription through whatever tool you're using. Well, category classification can determine sentiment. So, hey, is this person pissed off, or are they super happy? And if they're super unhappy, who is the best person to route them to, right? That that's kind of the way we can leverage AI Builder. By picking up that sentiment immediately and categorizing that, we're able to route cases effectively or do something else actionable when we know how the person we're interacting with is feeling, right? And that's super important. That can, increase basically turnaround times. If you're working on cases, it can basically just help standardize and maximize your process, right? We've got object detection, which is super cool. I don't have a ton of strong use cases for it for everyday clients, but a good one could be like if you have like tons of inventory management, you could essentially be like taking pictures with your phone of your inventory, and object detection could detect what objects and how many of those objects are within a given image. So that one's super cool. We've got prediction, which analyzes patterns within your historical subset of data. And it's basically helping to generate or predict outcomes based on the data that we've seen. So what we're looking for is like a yes or no answer, or go or no go, fail or pass. But we can get more specific to that per industry, right? So if we were a banking industry and we used prediction models, we could predict if someone would pass or fail, this credit check or authorization for credit, right? So there's all different ways that we can kind of use these different models. And then the last one is entity extraction. And so this one recognizes different or specific data in text and starts to classify them. And that's really powerful when we start to analyze our data and want to make, again, actionable workflows or marks around that data. So we have a ton of data. We need to be able to understand it quickly. And if we're using AI Builder and really all of the tools that our AI Builder is built upon, which is Azure Cognitive Services, we just have a powerhouse tool that can give so much value to clients, and they may not even realize it, what they're missing out on without these AI enhancements. All right, let me dive into pricing and licensing for just a second. So usually it's a little bit confusing. I don't think Microsoft often makes licensing and pricing super clear, but this is actually pretty digestible. So AI Builder is an add-on to a standalone Power Apps, Power Automate, or Dynamics 365 license. And then the pricing, how it works is per unit per month. So it's $500 per unit each month. Each unit consists of 1 million service credits. And our service credits are really like the currency for what our AI Builder resources run on. So in a previous slide, right, where I talked about our different tool set, well, to run form recognition, it might cost a few more service credits than to run like a receipt scanner, for instance. So they all have subtly different pricing models. But the really nice thing is that Microsoft actually generated like an AI calculator, and I can link it here if you end up sending this out, Troy, where everybody can kind of go in and start to play around and estimate like, all right, well, I get this many invoices each month, and I want to use Form Recognizer to process these invoices and get them into our finance and operations system. What do we think it's going to cost? Well, you can actually use your calculator to determine and estimate roughly what that cost would be. And so that's pretty sweet. And I think that makes it quite straightforward. All right, without further ado, I'm going to give just a super quick demo for anyone who's watching. So let me bring this over. Are you guys able to see my Power Apps environment now?
Yep, we can see it.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. So I already built a model, but I'm just going to go into the edit mode of the model so you guys can just quickly see how easy it is to really build this. So when you create a Form Recognizer model, you navigate to Power Apps, you go to the AI Builder, and there's going to be a section dedicated to form processing. So you'll click that, you give it a name, and then it throws you into this builder. So essentially what you're doing is you're just adding different field values that you want to extract from your form. So in my example today, I'm using a contract that I just made up, and I can kind of preview it really quick for you. In this contract, I want to be able to extract my start date, my end date, the amount, and maybe the date that the contract was generated. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and create fields for that, and you can see I already did that. When you create a field, you really are just entering the field name, so it's pretty straightforward. Then you hit next. You're going to add a collection of documents here. And I already have, you need a minimum of 5 and you can have up to 20. So what a collection represents is a group of documents that are the same. So I added different examples of contracts. Now the data might be different, but the layout is exactly the same. So once you have at least 5 documents, that's when you're able to actually build your model. Okay, so it builds out the model. And then this is like the coolest part about this whole thing. We don't need a data scientist, right? We don't need a developer. Anybody can do this. Basically, you're dragging and dropping around the value and you're tagging it. Hey, this is my contract end date. And you're going to go ahead and do that for each document. So some of it picks up on its own. You can kind of see there's some other existing green boxes here because I did this previously, but basically all you're doing is dragging and dropping a blue box around a particular value that you want to collect. You're connecting it to the fields that you established in your first step. Once you've done that for all 5 documents and you've determined like, hey, this is the field that I want, this is what I need, you go ahead and hit next. And this is what actually goes and creates your model. So I'm not going to hit train because sometimes it can take a few minutes and I already trained this model. But really your last step would actually just be to hit the train button. It goes ahead and it creates that training model for you. And then you're able to use this in Power Apps to call this training model. So what that means for people who are maybe a little less familiar with Power Automate, Power Apps, and AI Builder is it's really just like a workflow tool. Again, I know Emma referenced it earlier, but please take a look at Power Automate. It's so cool. It's a workflow tool that you basically indicate, hey, what is a trigger? When do I want this workflow to kick off? What am I looking for? And what is the outcome or what is the action that I want to take place? So in my example, and again, you can do this from maybe an email comes in, maybe something hits a fax server. You can basically, whatever your scenario is, Power Automate can pretty much, we can get that to work, right? So in my example, when I attach a note, I want to extract the data points and build a contract record. So I'm going to run a quick test here, test contract. I'm going to go ahead and attach a note. I'm going to hit add a note. And you'll see right now there's no contracts here that's tied to Bob's Grocery. And I probably have to bear with me being impatient for just a minute. I'll actually preview this flow really quick. This is Power Automate. This is what Emma was mentioning, and also how I built that workflow. I can see that it succeeded now, so I'm going to go back in, refresh. So the attachment that I added is a PDF that I showcased before, right? We have some dates here, a start date of 7/1, end date of 7/1/2022, a contract amount of $15. We see that my contract was generated. When I open that up, you see that all of those data points actually flowed in. What this means, just to reiterate, is nobody had to do manual entry. It was completely automated. And really, in just a few minutes, we're able to build an AI model that can cut down on mundane tasks and free up your team to do much more meaningful work than data entry. Yeah, and so this was super quick. I know it was really high level. So I'll hand it back over to Troy. Hopefully that was helpful for everyone to see.
Yeah, that was great. Well, thank you both for coming. I will edit this and put it up on YouTube hopefully next week.